All right, let's bring in trial attorney Steve Baric. Steve, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. So we just heard from Robert there. Right now, 61 people being indicted on these racketeering charges. Do you think we'll see even more people charged? Because we know there's, hundreds, if not thousands of protesters who've been involved in this.
Yeah, it's very possible. It sounds like this has been ongoing and that the Attorney General has been investigating this for a while. So I think there's a good possibility that there could be more indictments coming down in the future. It could be for charges less than the racketeering. It could be for more direct acts. But I think you're right, Nicole. There could be more things coming down the pike on this.
All right, so Steve, let's focus in on these racketeering charges. Do you think they are likely to stick? Because many critics, as we just heard, they were trying to say this is more about trying to silence a movement.
Yeah. So, I have to admit, I have mixed emotions about this. When I was a prosecutor, we used to use statutes like, gang statutes or RICO statutes, and we'd call them spackle. They would spackle over weak parts of a prosecutor's case because when you allege a conspiracy, it sounds so much more ominous. So, look, I think it's really dependent on how ongoing this has been going on, how organized things are. I think it's important for people to understand, look, it's okay to be concerned and be willing to prosecute conduct that you view as egregious. But to use some of these statutes, you have to be very, very careful. They were created to prosecute criminal enterprises that were long going, that were hard to detect, things like organized crime, things like gangs. So we have to be very careful when we use these statutes that we don't use them too often and abuse them to get a result that people want.
All right, Steve, before we let you go here, just talk about the significance of adding these RICO charges, these racketeering charges on top of the previous charges that really most of these defendants were already facing in connection to their, alleged involvement in this movement, because it certainly makes the possible penalties much more steep and punishments.
Right. That's the thing, right? There could be a lot of people who are involved in this so-called criminal enterprise, and their conduct individually may be rather de minimis. They may not be involved in these, explosive events or Molotov cocktail events, but they are now looking at felonies and substantial jail time, because that's the thing with these statutes. They give the prosecutor a big punch, a big hammer. And so you have to be very careful. Like, there could be people who, yes, they were engaged in felonious conduct and they need to be prosecuted aggressively. But other people, maybe not so much, but they're charged with the same thing and they're being tarnished with the same brush. So maybe justice for them requires less enforcement. So that's something we need to be on the lookout here as we move forward with these kind of charges in these kind of events.
And News Nation will continue to stay on top of this one. All right, trial attorney Steve Baric, certainly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.